threat. Not only because if you look at the devastating effect of this atomic bomb on the people of Japan, in fact, it continued to trail generations up till today. That is why at a point you see them giving birth to children with some deformities. No ears,
some
no
without
hand.
limbs.
So all these are effect of the radiation that was dropped in 1945. You look at the
Inhaled by their grandparents,
by those that were lucky even to survive. Talk less of those that lost their lives. And more so, the devastating effect on ecosystem around that area was devastating, so much so that they had to import some soil to put it on that area. If not, it cannot germinate, even a seed or a grass. So the dangers of these nuclear weapons are such that the whole of Europe is being threatened, and if care is not taken, the whole world is being threatened equally.
All right, now let's look at the economic effects of this war. Since the beginning of the war, especially in Europe, gas prices have risen to unprecedented rates, and so many people are complaining about it. It has sprung some protests in some parts of America and also the United Kingdom. What is the connection between the conflict and the rising gas price? We're just taking one item now because also food prices have also risen during this time.
You see, if you look at the strategic position of Russia in gas production in the world cannot, the gas market or the oil market cannot entail, or energy market cannot entirely survive without the quota that is being contributed by Russia. So invariably, Russia is the country that is supplying most of European countries. Most of the European countries. You look at countries like Finland, you look at countries like Germany, you look at countries like Turkey, you look at India, look at countries like Bulgaria, Hungary, so many. In fact, the whole of Europe, they relied on the power and the supply of gas and fuel from Russia. So the sanction now that they placed on Russia and the repercussive, the consequences of that function is now biting on the domestic and the people at home in these countries. So now the effect is negatively affecting them internally instead of affecting Russia. And they are scouting for countries that may produce this quantum to cover up the gap that is created as a result of this sanction. But unfortunately, it's not easy to get this quantity of gas supplied to Europe through maybe relationship or maybe forcing some other countries to overproduce. So this is what is pushing the price up. And as a result, both Russia and Europe are facing the wrath of the sanctions. The Europeans and the Americans initially thought that if they sanction Russia, it will cripple the economy, Russia's economy. But unfortunately now, it is brewing some domestic internal political squabbles within these countries. You will notice that most countries, not only in Europe, the whole world, even we in Nigeria today, we are disgruntled with the leadership because these are the external effects of all this war. So it is devastating and it's affecting the whole of the economy of the whole world.
So it seems like Europe is doing more harm than good to itself in supporting Ukraine rather than suing for peace in this conflict.
You see, gentlemen,
wouldn't it just be easier to sue for peace?
You see, a war, it's easier to start a war, but most often than not, you have to come and end up around table. Peace must be achieved through negotiation, through reconciliation, and ironing out the differences. As far as this war is concerned, either the Russians nor the Europeans thought that it will take these dimensions. and now they are capitalizing on these dimensions now to actualize their own goals. The Europeans initially supported Ukraine because America came out and supported Ukraine. They are part and parcel of the agreement that made Ukraine to hand over their weapons. And so many things, in fact. But then, if you look at the position of Russia equally, Russians entered into agreement with these very people before they dismantled the USSR. So it's a political game. It's a political game. So if you look at even the European countries, some of them are a little bit skeptical about these sanctions, and some of them are sort of not completely dancing to that tune because their pressure at home, the domestic pressure politically, is much more than the international politics they are playing. So Europeans cannot, because they relied on Russia for so many things, and equally Ukraine is one of the second largest country in Europe. So two largest countries in Europe now are in a conflict. So naturally, these smaller ones must feel the wrath.
And it seems like it's the effect that also extended to rise in prices of foodstuff also, especially grains.
It's normal because if you look at the quantum or the quantity of wheat that is being produced in Ukraine, if you look at sunflower, which is being used for this our cooking oil, if you look at so many things that are being produced in Ukraine, and furthermore, what is being produced in Russia. These two countries put together, if you look at the quantity of food produce that they supply in the international market, it is difficult to bridge this gap. Even if countries now resorted to maybe some internal policies to maybe overcome the gaps, I'm very sure the gap that is being created as a result of this war, particularly on wheat supply, is too wide. That is why if you look at you listened to news some weeks ago sometimes, there was an agreement between Russia and the United Nations and the rest, so that some quantity of wheat will be allowed to be exported
out of Ukraine.
Yes. But it must be with the agreement of Russia, because the Russians control the ports and the rest. So this is the economic effect of this particular one.
All right, I will take a short break now, and when we come back, viewers, you can call us on 08028 111738, and for the TV viewers, you can call us on the number just below your screen.
We are champions, we are kings. There's no height that we can't reach. We keep rising to the top. We keep soaring in the sky. We are champions, we are kings. There's no height that we can't reach. We keep rising to the top. We keep soaring in the sky. Nigeria, fly eagles fly to victory. We are champions, we are kings. There's no height that we can't reach. We keep rising to the top. We keep soaring in the sky. Nigeria, fly eagles fly to victory. We are champions, we are kings. There's no height that we can't reach. We keep rising to the top. We keep soaring in the sky. Nigeria, fly eagles fly to victory. We are champions, we are kings. There's no height that we can't reach. We keep rising to the top.
Glad you stayed on, and we are still discussing about the Russia-Ukraine war. It has spanned over 188 days now. In the studio, we have Dr. Ahmad Walido, who is a political scientist from the Federal University, Kashira, and he has been helping us understand the recent happenings since day one up until this point in time, the millions lost in world economies, how the conflict has dragged on, and also we are going to be looking at migration of people and the millions of people that have been displaced as a result of this war, the effects it's had on both countries. Dr. Ahmad, in your assessment, well, what country has suffered the most between these two countries?
You see, if you are talking of sufferance, you need to look at maybe a particular aspect. You know, naturally, the Ukrainians suffered more than the Russians. Why? Because you are attacked at home. So you naturally suffered much more than the person that attacked you. And if you look at the economy equally, the Ukrainians suffered because you notice that the Russian economy, on the other hand, is more or less boosting instead of shrinking as a result of the war. And as a result of the policies that were being put in place by the Russian authorities, particularly when they said that, well, if you sanction our country, so long as we are concerned now, if you want our product, you must buy using our local currency, not the dollar, or neither pounds. So with this, the economy started revamping. And furthermore, if you look at the destructions, particularly structural, under Ukraine, you will notice that it may take some time to build Ukraine to its own earlier position, or maybe the money that may be required to build that country is not small. And more so, you will notice that a lot of money is being diverted into war, servicing the war.
Security.
They buy weapons, securities, operatives, and so forth, instead of utilizing that funds for maybe peaceful purposes. And most importantly, social activities were being crippled, particularly in Ukraine, as a result of these incessant and frequent attacks. You will notice that at every given point, there is an attack in this area, on that area, and so forth and so forth. Economically, the viability of seaports of Ukraine now is almost halted because most of the seaports are under the control of the Russian army. They are in the hands of the Russians. And so you notice that activities in areas like Mariupol and the Black Sea entirely is now being halted. And it's a route, a transition route that transactions between international communities are taking place. And now it is under Russia's control. So economically, you notice that it is devastating on the Ukrainians themselves. But then the Ukrainians are trying to, through sovereign struggle, that this is their country, and they want to liberate their country. They don't want to, because even if you look at the history of the then USSR, when Stalin, the period, and the rest, this was the area that was given Stalin a headache then, because the people of Ukraine, even as far back as that period, were struggling for their own independence and sort of. So it led to killing of so many of their nationalists at that time. And even when the Germans came, it was the Ukrainians that gave them a warm welcome then. And that is why, if you look at the Mariupol was the military base for the German attack then, during the Second World War. So many historical antecedents that transpired lead to all these things. And now, the effect now, both economically, politically, and the relationship. If you look at the population, certain percentage, around 30-something% of the population in Ukraine are Russians. And the Ukrainians are still staying in Russia too, equally, because apart from proximity, they were one country before. And ideologically, they have some other components of similarities and so forth. So all this now is being affected. So the war is affecting that area negatively, and not only that area, but the whole world. But then the Ukrainians are facing it much more than the Russians are.
All right, we'll get to hear how this war has equally affected the giant of Africa. But first, let's take a few calls before then. 08028111173 is the number to call. Hello, good morning. Hello. 08. Hello, good morning. Go ahead.
Hello.
Well, doctor, how has it affected in Nigeria? Because there's still been inflation in the country is still at double digits, and it's and also we've also been affected by the gas rising price in fuel. Despite the fact that we are not a European country, but fuel price has risen to unprecedented levels. Equally, gas price also, and we would like to know. With the sanctions placed on Russia, how is that Nigeria couldn't take advantage of that and increase our output in oil production and seize that opportunity to make more gains?
You see, Nigeria is a country that is God through God mercifully God gave us virtually everything. But unfortunately, we are the most wretched on earth. That means a poverty in the abundance of mist, in the midst of abundance. This war that is now happening in Europe affected Nigeria because Nigeria is a dependent economy. We depend on Europe on virtually everything. Forget about whether we are oil producing countries. So long as you are producing and you cannot and you don't have the wherewithal to what do you call it, to all this our
there's no advancement in agriculture.
Not advancement in agriculture per se. Now let's take the case of wheat. Most of our wheat that we consume here, we import it from Ukraine. Furthermore, certain percentage of gas that we produce domestically, I think we are only producing 40-something% that can contain our domestic need. So around 60-something% we import from Russia. Furthermore, if you look at the level of sabotage in our oil market, and all our refineries cannot refine anything. We export crude oil and we import the refined one. So by implication, as we are exporting, as we are importing at the same price that is in the European market. So we are equally feeling the wrath in this direction. More so, it is very unfortunate that we are entangled in a debt. The country is indebted. So as we are servicing the debt now, you will notice that our currency has fallen, and as inflation is hitting, the value of Naira is falling, and we are paying back this loan through the dollar medium. And the interest itself. So whatever that is coming is just going for servicing the debt. And unfortunately, all this debt that were collected, instead of it being utilized properly, is not utilized. And more so, if you look at the conditionalities associated to all this.
Are you talking about corruption or misplaced priorities?
All put the two together. As corruption times. So this war now is hitting Nigerians much because we deliberately made ourselves so low to suffer from this war. We cannot produce wheat domestically because of our weak agricultural policies. We cannot produce the required gas because we lack the refineries to refine all this. As such, even in the international market today, you will notice that before we are leading producers of this crude oil, but now countries like Gabon have bypassed or surpassed Nigeria now. So the country is suffering from leadership diseases. We lack focus. Our leaders lack focus. We don't plan for future. And when something happen like this, instead of us to maybe have an advantage of what is happening, we ended up being victims of what is happening. So we, as victims of this war, we are suffering from the effect of this war as a result of our weak or incapable leadership. Leadership that has been riddled with corruption, misplacement, and so forth, and lack of focus, lack of future plans. So many things that put together and now expose us to this war now. That is why we are suffering.
All right, so thank you so much for that, Dr. Ahmad Waldo. And I think this is where we're going to roll the curtains on Viewpoint here for today. We sincerely hope you enjoyed the program. Thank you so much, Doctor, for coming down this morning. And we'll do this again, same time, same station. Tomorrow, be with us. I'm Umar Farooq Ahmad. See you next time.
We are Nigeria. We are champions. We are kings. We are Nigeria. There's no height that we can't reach.